So today we're going to do like a triple lesson because two of these lessons are like the same, and then there's a third lesson that I don't even know why it's a lesson. It's like a review of something we already hit. So let me do the review of something we already hit first. For some reason they devoted a day to telling you about the 4 operations of arithmetic, which we've already done that. Been there, done that. Can somebody tell me what the 4 operations of arithmetic are?
Is it adding?
It is adding,
Subtracting?
subtracting,
Multiplication?
multiply,
And dividing?
and divide. So if anybody ever talks to you about the 4 operations of arithmetic, that's what they're talking about: add, subtract, multiply, divide. They get back into all the words that we've learned one more time, so maybe it's there just to review those words. Would be my guess as to why they would do this again. So I think what I'm going to do is dust off. We did that quiz a few times. We haven't done it for like a week. I think I'm going to dust off that quiz one more time because I don't think we completely mastered that as a 6 for 6 kind of group. So if you still have some study papers around, I'll hit you Monday with that same quiz again. We'll try to bump our grades a little bit off of that. But adding, when we put the numbers together, what are they called?
Add-ins.
They are the add-ins. I was looking for him with a hand though, and you kind of cut him off. So add-ins are the numbers we put together. What's the answer called once we're done adding?
The sum.
That is the sum. And then there were 2 like story problem kind of words that if we see them, we know it's add time.
More and of, or more and increase.
More and increase is true. Subtracting, we always got these 2 mixed up. The top number versus the bottom, or the first versus second number. So the one I'd refer to as what number is being subtracted from. That's like the top one or first one.
Oh, the minuet?
That's the minuet. Then I'd ask something like, what's the number doing the subtracting, by which I meant the bottom or second one. That's the
Subtrahend.
subtrahend. Answer on that is the
difference.
difference. And then the 2 words, if we knew the 2 adding words, more increase, the subtracting words were sort of a giveaway.
Less decrease.
Less decrease, we just go opposites. Multiply, we were back to both things, just had the same name. Each number, when you work the problems, called in the problem, the numbers, factors, answer, product, and then there was a weird word that meant multiply time, of, and that's more for fractions and decimals later. Divide, answer,
The quotient?
quotient. Then if I go in the box, or if I do this symbol with the dots, the first number, I think I usually set on that one the number that gets divided. So if it's getting divided, it's like in the box kind of thing.
It's the dividend.
That's the dividend. The number doing the dividing means it's like that outside number, that's our divide. So we'll bring those 15 back for Monday. If you're a writing down kind of person, write that down. If you're not a writing down person, become one, okay? Because you won't remember that and you won't study it. And if you do study it, you're going to do well because we've done those a lot. If you forget to study it, you might get clobbered, and there's no reason to get clobbered on something that you can do well on. Just make sure you put the time in. So 15-point vocab, add-ins, etc. for Monday. Does anybody want me to go through another run through of that? Not right now, but in my cabinet I have papers with all the answers written on them. I could give you if you need them. Does anybody need a paper with all the answers on it because yours is gone? Okay, so I'll fish those out. I'll get them to you before you leave. So get you some study papers with that. The main thing we're talking about today is place value. So for place value, we'll have a number, big numbers like this, and I'll talk to you about places. The book will ask you questions about places. So I would probably start at the way that back very end of the number. What place is this from your prior math life experiences? That is the ones place. So at the very, very end of a whole number, that is called the ones place. Who's ones place's neighbor?
The tens.
The tens place. Who is the tens place's neighbor? That is the hundreds place. When we get into this next group that gets separated off by commas, who's coming after the hundreds? Who's next?
The thousands.
There is the thousands. Who's coming after that?
The
The
10,000.
10,000s. Who's coming after that? 100,000s. So we sense a little bit of a trend here maybe. There's ones, tens, and hundreds again in that same order and position, but this whole family, they're all thousands. So ones, tens, hundreds, but that's the thousands family. When we get up into the next group, who is this?
1 million.
1 million, then there's
10 million.
10 million, then there's
100 million.
100 million. So we see that pattern continue. There's one, tens, hundreds again, but the next family up is the millions place. Then what happens for this last three?
It's 1 billion,
1 billion, keep talking,
10 billion,
uh-huh,
and 100 billion.
and 100 billion. And then I just ran out of board space, but the numbers stop. No. Will they continue ones, tens, hundreds every time?
Yeah.
Yes, it's just gonna be new families. What's the next family after the billions?
Trillion.
Trillions. What's the next family after the trillions?
Quadrillions.
Quadrillions. That's about the biggest number I've ever seen in writing, like in an article or a book or something. I'll sometimes see a reference to quadrillions. But do they keep going?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the next family beyond quadrillions? Does anybody know?
Quintillion.
Quintillion is next. Does anybody know what's beyond quintillion?
I think it's septillion.
That's coming. That's not the next one, but that exists. That is a thing. Anybody know who's next? Okay, there's sextillion, then there's septillion. Does anybody know what's after septillion?
Vidrotillion.
That's coming, that's way down the list. Anybody know? Okay, this isn't gonna be a quiz. This is just like, if people are interested, you can keep this. If you're not interested, you can give it back to me. This goes for quite a while in terms of the families. This is more just if you're curious, I'll shoot it your way, but you don't need to memorize these. Very few people would know these. So they write them in a different way for you. The first one they wrote as, runaway paper, help me out there. Thank you, kind sir. Okay, so the first one they wrote as 10 to the third, by which they mean there's like 3 zeros or 3 positions after it. So if you have 3 zeros after yourself, that's thousands. The millions place. Are they still making the papers down?
Yeah.
So that first one, 10 to the third means there'd be 3 zeros there. That's thousands place. 6 zeros would be a million. 9 zeros is a billion. 10 is a trillion. 15 is quadrillion we talked about. Quintillion we talked about. Sextillion I threw out there. Septillion I threw out there. But then they keep going. There's an octillion, there's a nonillion, there's a decillion, and then let's call timeout, let's talk about prefixes. We've been doing some metric quizzes, they had some prefixes. This is like a different sort of prefixes. But let's go back to the billion. The prefix on billion, bi. Bi generally means there's how much of something?
Billion.
No, bi. By, blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of words in the English language that start with by, but it always involves this number. You have a bicycle.
Oh, 2.
There's 2. Anything with bi is 2. Binary numbers, there's 2 numbers. Just anything bi is 2. Tri is 3. Like tricycle or try, brainstorm some other try words.
Triangle.
Triangles, 3 sides. In the room, we're using one right now. In the front row. On top of the table.
The tripod.
Tripod, it's 3 legs, okay. Quad generally means 4. What's a quad word?
There's like a car. There's like a thing, a car kind of thing. That
Yeah,
you
like a
drive called
quad, you drive on a quad, it has 4 wheels.
Never mind, I forgot it.
In the animal kingdom, there's quadrupeds. Do you know what quadrupeds have?
4 legs.
4 legs, 4 feet. Go to the hospital, to the baby area. You might encounter
Quadruplets?
close, 4 babies,
Quadruplets?
quadruplets. 5, quint. There's a thing called quintuplets in the baby world, but quint is a prefix that means 5. The 6 prefix, sometimes it's hex, sometimes it's sex. Babies is sextuplets, if there were 6 babies. If you went into the hardware store and you needed like a nut with 6 sides on it, that's like a hex nut. So 6 prefix, it can be sex, it can be hex, it depends on what you are. Like there's hexagons, hexagons have 6 sides. But 6 is a fairly common prefix into one of those 2 words. 7 is usually sept. How is that familiar to anything? And we're going to go off on a tangent. Sept? When have you seen sept?
The only thing I can think of is September.
September's correct. September at one time was the 7th month. September is now the 9th month. We'll get into that in a little bit. Oct is generally
October and
8. October was the 8th month at one time. Octopus, 8 legs.
Octagon.
Octagon, whether that's a shape or a fighting thing, 8 sides in there for octagons. Octuplets, as if somebody had 8 babies. There was once a woman in the news in my lifetime that was on a lot of like fertility drugs, ended up with 8 babies. They called her Octomom, was like the nickname at the time, but she had 8 babies at the time. Non is often a 9 prefix. Des we know is a 10 prefix. Decades, decimeters, decameters, all that stuff. December used to be the 10th month, but a person named Julius Augustus at some point butted in and adjusted the calendar and the names of the months. What months do you think Julius Augustus created?
I want to say July.
July and
June.
no. Julius Augustus created July
August.
and August. Why is that sort of a giveaway?
Julius and Augustus.
Yeah, it's like his name. He took his name and Julius Augustus made 2 months that were July and August, so he had like 2 months named after him. And he squeezed them into the middle and nudged the other ones back. So September, October, November, December, at one time were numbers, 7, 8, 9, 10. But Julius Augustus and the calendar reworking and renaming, they jammed some July, August stuff into the middle of the calendar and like messed it up. After 10, they start over. They all have des in them because des means 10, but like the 11th one, they do a 1 and a 10, an on and a des. Some of you are probably familiar with the card game that on might remind you of. Uno is like a 1 thing. Duo. I think most people know duo means 2, like Batman and Robin or the dynamic duo or however you do that, singing duos. So duo decillion is 2 and 10. That was like a 12 prefix. Tre decillion, 3 and 10 is 13. Quattro is a 4 plus 10 is 14. Quin again is back. Quin decillion is like 5 and 10. The sex decillion is like 6 and 10. And again we go sept, oct, nov. Finally you get to that vigindillion. That's like the 20th prefix. If you start from like, you know, bi was 2 and tri was 3 and you get to the 20th one in prefix land, that's our vigindillion. And then Google, not the search engine, Google is how you spell the computer Google, but there was a guy named Google, Googol was his last name, and at some point he realized that 100 zeros didn't have a special name, so somehow he managed to get that named after himself. But 100 zeros is a Google, is that one. Does the number stop there?
No.
No,
They go on
our list stopped there, but yeah, it goes on forever. There's probably more names that I don't know. I only know the ones on the sheet. I could get you to the vigindillion, but beyond that, I can't tell you. But we went well off topic there. In terms of how this affects your homework life, they're going to give you numbers that are billions and smaller. I don't think our book will even do stuff in the trillions, but they'll ask you, what place are we in? So if I talk to you about what place is the 6, just go ahead and yell out, what place is the 6?
10.
Is the 10s. What if I want the 10,000s? Who's that?
The 3.
4 would be the 10,000s. The 10s are always in the middle of each family. So how about the 10 millions?
8.
That's the 8. So who's the 2?
1 million.
1 millions. Who's in the 1000s?
7.
7. How about the 5?
100.
It's hundreds. So what's the 3?
100,000.
100,000s. What's the 1? 100 millions. So they'll ask you questions inside and out. They might ask you which digit they're hunting when a certain place is mentioned, or they might do it the other way around. Question about that? The last thing we're going to talk about is reading big numbers. So I have this one set up. We're set up probably for failure. I say that for 2 reasons, not to be negative, but just past experience has taught me almost no one can read this number right in 7th grade ever. And then additionally, when we've done the homework reviews and you guys have read numbers that are bigger numbers, you generally don't read numbers like this correctly. I don't correct you, because no one in America reads these correctly. Okay, if we went up to the mall and we got 100 people and we asked 100 people to read this number, I'll bet at least 98 of them would read it wrong, and I would not be surprised if we went over 100. If you got me 1,000 people at a game or something and had everybody read this number, I'm going to say 990 some people out of 1,000 would read this number wrong. But that said, understanding that at some point I'm just going to probably interrupt you and say no, not to be rude, but just as soon as you say something wrong, I'm going to say no. Anybody willing to try to read that number?
1,210,000,000.
Nope.
1,210,104,002.
I think so. I think you said it right. And I think you noticed why I shot him down. Anybody else willing to give that a try? And I'll try to listen carefully. Yeah.
1,210,104,002.
I think so. What's the thing what hung him up? What did you notice?
He said and.
And. You try not to say and it's really hard. Most people, when they say this, will say 1,210,000,000, and that's wrong. 104,000, wrong. And 2, no. Like, you said it right, probably because I caught him, but if you went first, I bet you'd have said it wrong.
Probably not. That's why I didn't want to go first.
Yeah, I saw your eyes got real big when you heard him say that, and I said no, like the light bulb went on. Because some days, you don't say them right either.
Right.
Which is, again, no one in America says this right. But we want to try it without the ands. My best suggestion to you is only worry about reading 3 digits at a time. Okay, sometimes people see these big numbers, they get all freaked out. You only have to read each family at a time until you hit a comma. And when you hit the comma, say the family name. So we can all say 1, and then the comma is separating us into the billions family. So 1 billion. Then here just say 210 without the and. Comma makes you say million. 104,002. Do you want to try it again and see if you can fight off that instinct, or you think it's a hard habit to break?
Now I got this. 1,200,000.
Not million.
Oh wait, 1,000,000,000.
There you go.
210,104,002.
Oh, it's so close.
Dang it.
And 2 at the very end. You want to try it?
Yeah. 1,000,000,000, 2,000,000,
Just say that piece. 200.
210,000,000.
Yes.
104,000.
Yes. Yes. You relaxed at the end.
Yeah,
So
it was
you got
like-
it in. For Eli. Yeah.
1,000,000,000.
Yeah.
210,000,000. 104,000,000.
104.
104,000.
Yes.
2.
Yeah.
Almost said
I
and.
know, it's hard. And now that you learned that, you'll hear that all day long. Everywhere you go, you'll hear everybody saying numbers. They're all going to say them wrong. It's just the way that life is. So is that super important to survive as an American, to read it correctly?
No.
No, but if you can do it, it can make you feel smarter than everybody else. And that's kind of fun sometimes if you're like, I'm smarter than America. You know, don't say and. And is coming another day. Does anybody know what we're supposed to save the ands for?
When you go below ones.
Yeah, if we get into beyond the ones place, if we drop a decimal in there, then that's where we're supposed to go and. So this would be 182,347,569 and 1/10. The and drops in when you drop in decimal points. Preview of things to come. Question about the place values is the most important thing probably. Question about reading numbers, which is good if you want to just try to feel smarter than everyone. Likewise, if you learn the number places, you don't need those in day-to-day life, but if you know them, it makes you feel smarter than people. A lot of people don't know about quadrillion, that's even a thing. I think most people can go million, billion, trillion, and then they go like, I don't know. Some people can do quadrillion, but very few people know quintillion. So if you remember some, it makes you feel smart. Go home at dinner, quiz your parents, see how far they can go in the numbers. I bet you can go farther than them now after the little lesson. But where we are off of this, we're going to go to 3 locations. It's mostly letters. We're not going to do a full 1 to 25 off of this. On 24, we're going to do just the letters, no numbers on 24. 24, we're going to go from A to D. 26 is again just the letters. We're going to go on 26 just from A to F. 29, we're going to go letters. That's A to F. And then I'm going to do just a little bit of 29's numbers. We're going to go 1 to 5, 10, 11, 17, 18, and that should be about where we are usually. Because there's 4 there, 6 there, 6 there, so the 12, 16, 21, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's exactly 25 again in the end. So just letters 24, just letters 26, 29, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, some letters, and then some 1 to 5. Then skip all the way to 10. Don't do 6, 7, 8, 9. Go 10, 11. Then skip a bunch more, 12, 13. Skip all those. 17, 18 we do, and then we just cash out on that. So assignment sheet, writer downers, vocab quiz on the add-ins and stuff, 15 points. I'll get you that study guide right now. Homework there is that.